Hey everyone, welcome back. This is Armored Brownies, I'm Hayes, and just like the previous video, we're going through the painting of a Kindred mask. This time it's Wolf's mask, but also remember, I'm giving these masks away. Stay tuned to this channel as a video tomorrow will tell you how to win. So subscribe to the channel or follow me on Facebook for full details. Let's get into it. The painting for this mask is very similar to the previous mask, so I'm going to be reiterating some points and going over the different techniques in use. And just like before, we start off with a raw polyurethane mask that we're then putting this 14 gauge plastic canvas in the eyes of before we undercoat it with black model making and primer. Now, you can use any sort of black primer, but just make sure that it's a fine enough coating that you're not going to erase the details that we spent so much time sculpting into the original sculpt that went into the silicone mold that birthed this polyurethane cast. You might be thinking to yourself, why are we undercoating a white mask in black? The best answer I can give you is contrast. A longer answer is most white things you do not want to just paint white because they will look big, blotchy, artificial objects. And since this wants to look like a natural wooden mask, we want to slowly build up its white colour. And since it has a lot of recesses and a lot of details, we want to keep the contrast. So we're undercoating it in black and then using a dark grey brown, just like we did for Kindred, as a first dry brush. Although this is slightly lighter than the last time since we are going to end up with a lighter colour. Because we're trying to get a wooden effect, we are using a mixture of white and brown. Not just brown, because wood literally isn't brown, it's mostly grey and brown. Especially this sort of wood, where there isn't any real colour to it. So we mix up those two colours, and then we slowly, adding little bits of extra grey as we go along, dry brushing slightly lighter brown greys over each other, being lighter and lighter as we go, bringing out the lighter colour rather than just painting white straight on the mask. I personally don't think just painting it straight white or even dry brushing it straight white would give you a good rich deep colour effect. Maybe painting it white and then using some acrylic dyes or washes might work, but this is definitely the technique I would advise. And we keep on repeating that until we start to get a colour, like a lighter colour a bit more like ash or a bit more like one of the white silver woods. And then in the last step, we add a tiny touch of purple into the mix. We want this little hint of purple to tie the mask into the overall aesthetic of both characters without actually washing it out in purple and keeping it white. And then to bring out the very light colour of the mask, like we did with the final light purple, do a much lighter brush effect at the very end, where we're just catching the highlight, catching the nose, the brow, around the eyes, just to give it a bit of highlights, which creates this fantastic contrast, which makes the lighter bits look lighter and the darker bits look deeper and more detailed. And now, just like before, we move on to an airbrushing stage. Again, we're doing the exact same thing we did with Lamb. We're putting down a lighter base coat over this black undercoat. As I said, you cannot paint directly onto this plastic mesh as it won't take paint, but if you prime it with a good primer, it will. And we're just going for some nice bright highlights around the edges, darker near the center, and kind of amorphous overlapping shapes. And then a couple of little off-white spots for the twinkly lights of the eyes to suggest that they are twinkling on and off and there is movement in the eyes. You can probably achieve an effect just like this through dry brushing and actually just painting it up, but since I have access to an airbrush, I think this is a great way to do it. And actually I think an airbrush is one of the best purchases you can make for making costumes and props, because an airbrush are actually surprisingly easy to use, and just adding a little bit of airbrush to each prop really improves the quality of the look of the thing. And now, with all that done, it's time to move on to the next technique, which again is just literal painting. Since it is a dark purple we want on the face, but we're going over quite a light colour now, we actually start with a mix of white and purple, and then go over it a couple of times, getting it darker and darker, so we can keep the nice rich effect. Unlike the white, I wanted to concentrate on getting this to be a dark colour. But it comes out quite shiny because this paint is quite shiny. And because of that, and because we want it to look wooden, we want to hit it with a matte varnish. Hang it up to dry next to its sister mask, and there we go. That is one completed wolf's lamb mask. Details, you can see the lovely painting effect. I'm actually more proud of this mask than I am of the lamb mask, even though the lamb will be my mask, and this mask will be going to my friend Hixie, who will be my wolf. I hope you've learned something. I hope you're excited to see the rest of the costume, and be sure to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss your opportunity tomorrow to try and win these 2 masks. You and a friend can win both these masks together on here and on my Facebook. Thanks for joining me, and goodbye.